Okay, so let's go. Gold does not appear, it was always there. Deposited across millennia by geological forces that had no interest in human timelines, pressed into seams inside rock by heat and pressure, so extreme that the timeline of its formation makes human impatience seem almost comic, waiting, inert, indifferent to whether it was ever found. And then a shift. A fault line moves. Erosion exposes a vein. A river changes course and strips away the sediment that covered something that was there before the river existed. The gold did not arrive. The conditions for its discovery did. Something similar seems to be shifting in the material landscape of your life. What is a windfall? Originally a tree brought down by wind. Fruit made suddenly, unexpectedly accessible by a force that had nothing to do with harvest season, not earned in the conventional sense, not planned, not the result of patient cultivation and deliberate timing, but real, tangible, there on the ground when it wasn't there before. The word carries that quality still, the quality of something loosened from its previous position by forces operating at a scale larger than personal effort. Something that moves because the conditions moved it, because a shift happened somewhere upstream in the system, and the downstream effect of that shift is material abundance arriving in your direction. Not impossible, not fantasy. The geological record is full of windfalls, veins exposed by earthquakes, riverbeds stripped by flood to reveal what sat beneath for centuries. The conditions of abundance have always been present. What changes is the event that makes them visible. An event seems to be approaching your material life, but here is where this reading earns its warning. Gold is heavy. This is a physical fact, not a metaphor. Gold is one of the densest metals that exists. A small quantity of it weighs more than most people expect when they pick it up for the first time. There is something about holding actual gold that recalibrates your understanding of weight, of density, of what it means to carry something that has that much mass relative to its size. Sudden abundance has that quality. It arrives carrying more weight than it appears to carry from a distance, more obligation, more visibility, more of everything, including more of what was already unresolved. Money does not solve problems, it amplifies the existing landscape. The fault lines that were present before the windfall are still present after it, and now they are being asked to bear more weight, more pressure. The erosion that was happening slowly is now happening faster because the forces acting on the landscape have intensified. This is the warning. Not that the abundance is false, not that it should be refused, but that the ground it lands on matters as much as the landing. The seams in your situation. Every landscape has them. Places where two different materials meet, where what was formed in one set of conditions abuts what was formed in another, where the composition changes, where the rock, under sufficient pressure, would prefer to split along a predictable line. Yours exist in three places, possibly. The first is the relationship between what you earn and what you believe you deserve to earn. These two figures are not always the same. For many people, they are not the same. And when material abundance arrives, the gap between them becomes suddenly uncomfortably visible because the abundance either confirms the higher number or creates a new internal argument about whether you are entitled to keep it, whether you earned it in the right way, whether luck disguised as windfall is a valid form of receiving. The second theme is in relationships. Specifically, who knows about the abundance and what knowing does to the dynamic between you. Money changes rooms, it enters. Not because money is inherently corrupting, that is a simplification of a more complicated truth. But because money is a form of power, and power in a relationship that was previously balanced differently requires renegotiation, requires honesty about what each person now brings, requires the willingness to have conversations that the previous balance made unnecessary. The third theme is the oldest one. The relationship between abundance and identity. The question of who you are when material scarcity is no longer the organizing condition of your daily decisions. When the constraint lifts. When the shape that constraint gave to your choices dissolves, and you are left standing in a more open landscape, required to make choices not from necessity, but from preference, from values, from an understanding of what you actually want that was perhaps easier to avoid examining when what you wanted was simply more. More is arriving. The question of what you do with more, that is the warning. The erosion that exposes gold also exposes everything else. This is what the mythology of Windfall leaves out. The flood that strips the riverbed to reveal the gold also strips the riverbed. The earthquake that cracks the rock open also cracks the rock open. The force sufficient to bring the fruit down is the force sufficient to do damage to other things in the vicinity. What else might surface when the material conditions of your life shift significantly? Old resentments that poverty made easier to defer. Relationships that were sustainable under one set of conditions and may require renegotiation under another. Habits built for survival that no longer serve their original purpose but have calcified into identity. The specific way you have learned to hold yourself in the world as someone who does not have enough, which is a posture, a set of behaviors, a whole internal geography that does not automatically dissolve just because the external geography changes. The internal geography changes more slowly than the external one. Sometimes it doesn't change at all without deliberate attention. Receiving. The art of receiving well is rarer than the art of acquiring. Whew. Most people who come into sudden material abundance make the same error. They treat the receiving as the end of the event rather than the beginning of it. They focus on what arrived and not on what the arriving requires of them. They do not ask, what does this change? What does this reveal? What is now possible that was not possible before? And am I prepared not financially, but internally to inhabit that possibility? Receiving well means staying awake through the windfall, not grasping, not immediately converting the abundance into a fixed form that cannot move, burying it, hoarding it, transforming it so quickly into security that you never have to feel the exposure of having it, but also not spending it in the nervous relief of someone who cannot tolerate holding something valuable for fear of losing it. Staying with it, feeling its weight, understanding what it is before deciding what to do with it. The gold held in the hand tells you something, but only if you hold it long enough to feel the full weight of it, only if you don't immediately set it down. The congratulations part, yes, that too, because the shift in material conditions that seems to be approaching, however it arrives, in whatever form the windfall takes, through whatever channel the fault line opens, is real and it is meaningful. And it has the potential to change not just what you have, but what you can do, what you can build, what you can offer to the people around you and to the larger shape of whatever this life is becoming. The gold was always there in your situation, in the landscape of your particular combination of skills and circumstances, and the specific moment in time you are moving through. The conditions for its discovery have simply shifted, aligned, created the geological event that exposes what was present but inaccessible. That is worth celebrating quietly, without performance, in the private way of someone who understands that the discovery of gold is not the same as the mining of it, that finding the vein is only the beginning of the work, but still worth acknowledging. Something real is moving toward your material life. And you, with your eyes open, with your awareness of the seams, with the willingness to stay awake through the receiving rather than going unconscious in the relief of it, you are more equipped for this